You live in a seasonal climate area where you have to close and winterize your pool for the year, whether you do it yourself or you hire somebody else to close and winterize your pool for you. Here's a list of stuff I want you to double check to make sure that it was done properly. You're not going to have like an unfortunate, expensive surprise on your hands come the springtime when you go to start up the pool again. So the first thing is going to be, is the circuit to your pool pump powered off? Sometimes, for some reasons, we use timers and things like that for pool pumps. And when you winterize the pool yourself or the company that you hired came and did it, the timer was off and the pool pump was not running. So they did their thing and they winterized it and all that. And then they left because it actually only takes like half an hour to 1 hour maximum to close and winterize the average residential pool. So those guys winterized and they split. And that night, 8-10 hours later, the pool pump timer turns on and your pump tries to run. That's totally a thing that happens. It happens all the time. In fact, this is crazy. It can do that for the whole winter. I've come back to pool pumps running that had been doing that for the entire winter season. The pump didn't even fail or cause a fire, which I presume would have happened. But in this particular instance I'm talking about, it didn't. It was still doing its thing, and it was not discovered until the springtime. And so that's how these things happen. You got to make sure that you turn off the power because there could be a timer that made this situation where it kind of just got missed. That's a thing that happens. Modern pool pumps, we experience this a little bit less because modern pool pumps don't use that external timer, the external mechanical timer, which was very common for swimming pool installations, in previous generations. The new pool pumps are more of like a direct drive 220 is a really common configuration. And so they don't really power on and off with a timer. We just supply them with power all the time, and they have an internally controlled digital timer that just controls the function of the pump on or off. But the power is supplied all the time. So you would notice if you power that off, you would see the display go dead. If that display is still reading, then you know that you have power to the pump, whether the pump's running or not. So with a modern pool pump, I think it's a little less likely to happen, but it still warrants mentioning. You got to make sure that the breakers are all off because you don't want anything trying to run when everything's already been disassembled and winterized. And that brings me to my next point, since we're just talking about this powering off the power stuff. A lot of people just turn off that, pump. What about the pool light and what about the pool heater? The pool light, that could get missed, same thing. It's just one of those things that doesn't run all the time, so you might not realize the circuit's still energized. It could come on with like a timer, or you flicked it on accidentally and it might not be in the water because it's removed. That happens sometimes. So the light is one, but the heater, here's the real important one. You think to yourself, well, the heater's off. It doesn't matter. Heater's turned off. The gas line's turned off. Doesn't matter if the heater's on or not. But that's not true because there is power from the house to the heater that powers a transformer that changes your line voltage from 115 volts down to 5 volts for like control of different digital circuitry. And even if you're not doing anything with the heater currently or asking it to heat your pool, that transformer is working and it's doing its thing. And in doing so, it A, hums, and B, generates a waste electricity in the form of heat. So it's hot, it's warm there, and this is just a well-known problem for pool heaters. Turn off the circuit to the pool heater because otherwise that transformer is going to be putting out heat during the cold winter season, and it's going to be very attractive to pests and rodents to try to get in there and set up a nest and chew up wires and cause all sorts of damage to what is otherwise the most expensive piece of pool equipment on the equipment pad. Since we're out there at the pool equipment anyway, turning off the breakers for everything or double checking that, double check that the drain on your pool filter has been removed. Commonly with a sand filter, you'll remove that drain and you leave the cap off for the whole winter. With a cartridge filter, you might not leave that cap off for the whole winter, but a cartridge filter is different. You can knock on the tank, and if it's empty, it feels empty. If it's full of hundreds of pounds of water, you can feel it's full of hundreds of pounds of water. With a sand filter, you can't do that. It's full of hundreds of pounds of sand anyway, so you can't tell by knocking if it's also full of water. So a sand filter takes a long time to drain, not a day, more than that. So with a sand filter, I expect that drain to be off. And if you have a sand filter, take a look at your sand filter and make sure that drain's off. Every year I put that advice out to people, and every year somebody tells me, I totally missed that. If I hadn't done that, my filter would have cracked and broken over the off season, and it probably would have. Again, since we're out there looking at the pool equipment, Just take a quick look at your valves. Every swimming pool system has valves, whether ball valves or diverter valves, something like that. The correct orientation for pool valves is open. Typically speaking, you don't want to close any valves because then you're going to potentially trap moisture or water with nowhere to expand to. When it expands, it cracks and it breaks. I'll give you a good example with a less common valve, but a very, one that you could very well have, which is the multi-port valve on top of a sand filter. That's a valve too. So this is a different kind of valve. And it has different settings: filter, backwash, recirculate, all this stuff. It's got a winterized setting. Some of them do. Some of them have a closed setting. What is the right, what is the wrong setting? Winterized is obviously the right setting for the winter season, but closed on a multi-port valve is wrong. It is the absolute wrong choice because that means all ports closed. It's the exact wrong setting. And if you don't have a winterized setting on your sand filter, the correct position is, you know how you push the handle down under spring tension and you rotate it and then you let it up, right? Once you've got into the different notches. So to winterize it, or to leave an all ports open situation, press down, turn, but don't turn all the way to the next notch where it drops down. Leave it hung up and open like that. And that's how you can leave an all ports open on a sand filter multi-port valve that doesn't have a winterized setting. One more thing, let's double check. Is that gas valve off for your pool heater? I mean, if you're not the person who normally deals with these things, I would not endeavor to turn anything or change anything. I would only observe. You could snap a picture with your phone of the gas valve and send it to the company who closed your pool and say, is this gas valve in the correct position? I just want to double check that the gas valve is closed. And so I'm not telling you to go out and start turning gas valves. I'm just making you aware you would want to have your gas valve closed for a gas-powered pool heater for your winter season. That the gas smell itself is something that attracts spiders, and spiders are going to start building webs, and it's going to result in your heater not functioning properly. It's not going to get the correct fuel to air ratio. It's going to start to create soot, and that's going to create this just devolving cycle where the ratio is getting further and further. It's making more and more soot, and eventually your pool is just going to stop firing up and send you out an error code. The solution to this is to shut off your gas and to also have a spring cleaning. When you have your filter or your heater opened in the spring, have a gas technician come perform a spring cleaning and fire up your heater for you. The final thing I'll say that I would want you to know or want you to double check as part of the pool closing: what is the water level in the pool? Can you peek under the cover? Is that possible for you to do? And if so, I would want to know what the water level is in the pool, such that months later when we come back, if there's an abnormality, the water level is not what you expected to see when you open it. Is this water level lower than it was when we close the pool? Because that shouldn't be lower. I mean, with most pool cover systems, the water level should be higher. But in any case, I would want to have my finger on the pulse of this issue. I would want to be aware what my water level is, such that when I open the pool in the spring, I know what the situation is. So if I see anything abnormal, I'm going to recognize that in the moment. Well, this is not an inclusive list of every last thing that you need to check, but these are some really good things to go out there and double check, because these are very common items that get missed. Oh wait, one more thing. Do you have an automatic water fill unit? Automatic water fill units always get missed because they're the one item connected to your pool system which has a pressurized water line coming from your house supply. All of the other water system for a pool is self-contained closed loop just within its own self for the filtration system. But that fresh water supply line comes from the house. So it requires access to the house to close and winterize that line properly, and it's done so in a different way than the rest of the swimming pool system. The service company might not have had access inside. Autofill units are not common on every pool. They might have not have known what they were dealing with. If you know you have an automatic water fill unit, this is something that you want to be extra careful that gets winterized properly. Make sure that the feeding from your house outside gets turned off and that line gets blown out. The actual canister that contains the float valve for your automatic water leveler at the pool side gets a healthy dose of pool antifreeze. That's a place where I very, very liberally will use pool antifreeze as an automatic water fill unit, because those things are just notorious for cracking and breaking the canister that they're contained within. And the high pressure water line that connects to it is a smaller size than the 1.5 inch, 2 inch or 2.5 inch PVC that we normally work with. Normally it's like a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch supply line. So they're just easier to break those than it is to break something bigger. So that's why these in particular are a notorious leak point and something that is specifically hard for winterizing versus the rest of the pool, and also something that gets missed more often than the rest of the stuff. If you found this information helpful, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you can check out my website, swimmingpoolsteve.com.